Hey, I'm Coach T. This is week 24 of my C Sharp DevLog, where I'm logging 1 year of study, principally with C Sharp, but more recently focusing on Unity. I'm going to keep this short because it's the holidays and I don't want to be sitting in front of the computer all day. So here's really a quick rundown of what's going on. This week was the week before break, which, if you know anything, you know that I'm a teacher, I'm an instructional coach. Normally that week is a little bit dead for me because people are, they're doing holiday activities and stuff, but this week it just wasn't. It was kind of packed. I had people pulling me in for assessments. I had people pulling me in for training. I was doing some tech development with people, which is a good thing. It's good to be needed and used, but it does mean that I was busier and I ended up staying later at work more days than I intended to. And since my shoulder, which I injured a couple weeks ago, is finally kind of on the mend, I was also in the gym more mornings this week than I have been for the past few. So I lost out on my early morning coding. I lost out on my PM coding after the girls go to bed for a couple nights. And that just meant that I didn't get a whole lot done. But I did start learning with this new Udemy course that I got through the Humble Bundle. Like 2 weeks ago, they ran a flash deal with $1,700 worth of GameDev.tv Unity courses for $30. And I was like, that's an easy sale. So I got all of those. I migrated them over to Udemy, and I started the introductory course for Unity. I ran through the first unit like in an hour or so. It was very easy, which is a good thing. I'll come back in a second. And then I started the second unit yesterday, because today is Saturday. So I started the second unit yesterday, which is Rocket Blast, and that's the joke on the title, Rocket Science. We're making a Flappy Bird-like game, but unlike Flappy Bird, which only goes up and down and it auto scrolls to the right, you have 360 degrees of control and you thrust on vector.up, so you can really control where your rocket goes. And they're really talking about the input system, which is what I spent most of my week where I did have time to study and practice. I spent a lot of my time working on understanding the new input system in Unity. And although I read and watched a lot of videos, I still don't totally feel like I've got it, but it's starting to come together. And Rick, who's the primary instructor in this course, is doing a very good job step-by-step explaining. And so I was able to debug and add to that controller pretty quickly once I was starting to get more and more of the components down. So I don't have a lot of gameplay to show you, but I'm going to show you a crude version of the project that I threw together in the 5 minutes before I set this video up. So yeah, this is the rocket science video. Incidentally, if you like that kind of image that I threw together in the background with Blender, I closed, didn't I? Nope, it's right here. This is the image. It's rendering in cycles right now. I can turn that off and go to Eevee. So that's actually what the image looks like. I'm just goofing around a little bit with the shader nodes. But if I go to, nope, not sculpting. That's definitely the wrong tab. Yeah, this is the complexity of that image. So I don't know if anybody is ever curious about Blender. I don't think I know it well enough to teach it, but I know it enough to goof around in it. So that's the rocket. And let's go to Unity real quick. I'll show you what we got working. So in this little scene, we've got a plane to act as the ground. The plane has a mesh collider. The cube has 3 key components: the box collider, the rigid body that talks to that and allows it to act in the physics engine, and then a movement script. And I'll show you the movement script in a second, but what Rick showed me in the Udemy course that's new to me is that I can put inputs right in here with input actions. That I did not know. I had been strictly using the input action maps, and that's a little bit confusing at this stage for me. So this is a nice, very narrow way to work on this. In the full version of this, I have thrust and rotate. But for this, I'm only doing the thrust because, I'll be honest, I don't totally get the rotate thing yet, although I feel like I'm very close. But it does fully work on the laptop. So I rebuilt this to prove to myself that I understood how it works. I'll show you the script real quick, if it's still open. There it is. So it's very simple. We have a serialized field for the input action, which allowed me to map it to the spacebar and to the south button on a gamepad. And then we have a serialized float for thrust or force. And that is going to be multiplied against the vector3.up. And we'll get to that in a second. And then the rigid body. So all that happens is during the fixed update loop, which is better for physics, every 50 seconds or so, or every 50 frames or so, it applies some thrust. What does apply thrust do? Well, we can zoom in and take a look at that right here. It's a private void, so it's not returning anything, and we're applying thrust. So if thrust.isPressed, that means that whatever I have bound to those buttons. This is a button specific thing. If the space on a keyboard or the south button on a gamepad is pressed, then it will add relative force to the vector 3.up. So that's up on the y-axis, which is 0, 1, 0 for your vector 3. And it multiplies that times thruster force, and then it's times fixed delta time. That keeps everything moving very smoothly. That's it. So basically, every time this gets called, if this is true, if thrust is pressed, then it adds a relative force. And it goes up. And it doesn't matter which direction it's facing, it's relative. So I'll play it real quick. I have 750 points or units of thruster upward force. I'm just going to hold spacebar because I don't have a gamepad clicked up. Woo! Goes up, just like Flappy Bird, right? And it comes down. And I could change the gravity force if I wanted to, but this is kind of nice and meaty. If I pause it, though, and this is where relative force was new to me, I didn't know. I have never seen it. Now it's going to be throwing force on the local Y scale. So, oh, I twisted it the wrong way. Oh well, there it goes. Supercube off into the distance because I'm pushing it on the up, which is now oriented away from us. And it's still there, it's vanishing. It's a pixel size now. And it's gone. So that's it. That's kind of all I got going on. I'm enjoying that course a lot this week now that I've got some time off. I'm going to be trying to code in the mornings, I think. I'm going to work on this rocket project because I want to see if I can understand the input system enough to move it over to Project Rochester, which came along last weekend more after I recorded the video log. I ended up having a couple hours. It's got a rocket launcher that the rockets arc and explode with a simple particle system. They also have a trail and a flare. The guns have ranges, and they have FX for impacts and muzzle flashes and tracer rounds, and it's fully mapped to a controller. So you can jump, you can swap weapons. I was working on picking weapons up, and that's where I choked on the input system, so the weapon pickup system doesn't work yet. But you've got shields and health and 360 degrees of movement, and the controller itself feels pretty good whether you're on PC or you're on keyboard. But I think I'm going to pause on that so I can understand the input system better with Rick's material on the GameDev.tv course. Incidentally, if you do get holiday money and you do want to learn to code, I recommend those courses. They go on sale on Udemy pretty often. If you get them on Udemy, you get access to them on their site and vice versa. But I learned to do 3D modeling with the GameDev.tv crew, and I learned a little bit about Godot and a little bit about Unreal and a little bit about C# from them as well, really before I started learning to code more specifically in C#. And I moved to other resources, but I really like the materials. I'm a teacher, I'm an instructional coach, so knowing teaching is kind of my profession, and they're good teachers. So if you do have money and you're looking for a resource, I'll recommend them. I think I might record a couple of C# review resource videos, whatever, that sentence got butchered. But that's it. I'm going to cut it. We're at 8 minutes. Have a happy holiday. Go be restful. Go spend time with family. And remember, you get to define what 2025 is going to be for you. So I don't know if there's a video diary coming next week. We'll see. But if I don't see you, have a happy holiday, happy new year, and go do something awesome.